immaculate front lawns, pristine white houses, no picket fences. Because who the fuck has those in 2025? But still, a gorgeous neighborhood. A suburban heaven. That's what the developers had promised when we checked out the new build. This could be our forever home. Ronin had beamed as we walked away from the 4-bed to bathroom, 1490 square foot living accommodation spread over 2 floors with a converted attic. Double glazed windows, private parking in the form of a spacious garage, and a south-facing garden with patio from where you could sit and watch the sunset over a forested backdrop on a warm summer evening with your designated partner in life as your hypothetical to point for children play in said south-facing garden with a joy and abandonment that most people can only dream of. I know. Disgusting, right? But you know, look, we were at that stage of our lives, as was everybody else I knew. So, I just did what any decent millennial would do and along with it. Fast forward 6 months. I'm sat in the passenger seat of a moving van, dressed in my comfy dungarees and favorite Fleetwood Mac t-shirt. My denim jacket is draped over the headrest. Ronin's driving, still wearing that stupid grin he had when we first checked out the property, that stupid grin he always seems to have in a plaid shirt and chinos. His sports jacket draped over his headrest, I know. Horrendous outfit, right? I didn't marry him for his dress sense. Ronin's recently gotten into easy listening. Tonight You Belong to Me is playing on the radio. It's creepy AF and it reminds me of the film Jeepers Creepers, and the old song that plays during it. My Converse set feet are up on the dashboard, my head resting against the window. I'm contemplating all my disastrous past and future life choices. We've navigated half a dozen of these suburban ream streets with our lovely little white homes to get to our own. It's quite apparent that the developers have delivered on what they promised. It's no different from the brochures and the aforementioned model home we visited, with 2 exceptions. First, there's a brilliance. Red-leafed bush sprouting from the middle of the front yard. Ours seems to be the only house that has one. The second exception, the neighbors. We pull up outside our house, and that's when I spot them. An old man and an old woman standing outside the house directly opposite ours. They're quite some distance away. It's a wide street, so I can't make out much of the way in features. But the fact that they're wearing all white makes them stand out. They stand side by side and seem to be just staring into the distance. Suddenly, they turn and make eye contact, startling me. I do what I think is polite and give them a wave, but they don't wave back. So I just look away, unnerved. I think back to that day we visited the model home. We were the only ones there, well, the only prospective buyers. It was just us and the developer, on his lonesome, superficially charming, wearing a perma grin, dressed in all white. I thought nothing of it at the time. It was a warm day, so why not? Ah, Ronin exclaims, turning off the ignition. Home sweet home. Let's check it out. My lovely. An hour later, we are in the living room. Boxes, books, and clothes are scattered around the room. I've changed into a hooded top and pajama bottoms, and chucked my denim jacket onto the sofa, next to Ronin's hideous sports jacket. I take out a large framed photo from one of the boxes. It's of myself and Ronin on our wedding day. I stare at it for a few seconds before placing it on the mantelpiece. I turn to look out the front window. I can see the house opposite, and outside it once again. That old man and old woman, except this time, he's wearing Ronin's chinos and plaid shirt, and the woman, she's wearing dungarees, just like mine, and they've now been joined by another old woman, but she's in all white, just like they were earlier. They're staring ahead into space, just like earlier, and just like before. They suddenly turn their heads and sink to look straight at me. I gasped and reach out for the curtains and yank them across. I wonder if I'm just seeing things, or just not seeing the right things. The street is pretty wide, and those old people are far away, but I dare not pull the curtains back to have a peek. Not yet. Instead, I busy myself with more unpacking. An hour later, I'm feeling all that dust in my hair and up in my sinuses, so I go upstairs to take a shower. The bathroom gets all steamed up and I open the window, and there they are, the 3 of them, staring ahead. The other 2 are dressed as before, but now the third lady, she's wearing my hooded top and pajama bottoms. Ronin. I yell. Ronin. The elderly gang look up and at me. I slam the window shut. Enter Ronin. What's up, my lovely? Then he senses something's up. Hey, You okay? He asks. I gesture to the window. Just look. Open it. He frowns. Complies. Peers out. Uh, what am I looking at? Exactly. My lovely? He asks. I take a look. The streets are empty. I slam the window shut. Dinner time. Ronin makes a mess and a lot of noise when he's eating. He loves it. But I've no appetite. The fuck are those people? Am I losing my mind? The street's wide and they aren't close. Maybe I just need to get a proper look at them. So my head's down. My dinner's untouched and I'm on my phone. Amazon, let's get some binoculars. That scrolling's been a bone of contention in our marriage for quite some time. The chewing stops. A clash of cutlery on crockery stops. I can feel Ronin's eyes on my scalp. I look up. His eyes lock onto mine. And narrow. Didn't we talk about phones during dinner? My lovely? He asks. Okay, well, I mean it's not like you're saying anything. If you have something to talk about then. But he's right and I know he is, so I don't finish that sentence and I put my phone down. We eat in silence for a few seconds until we both try and speak at the same time. Do I start? So? He begins. We both laugh nervously. Sorry, go ahead. He says. Oh, out of curiosity, do you still have those binoculars? The one your brother got you? That stupid grin returns to his face. But it's taken on some wryness. I'd been rumbled. And that pisses me off. Look. Ronin. It's not funny. He points at me. Finger quavering. I see dead people. He whispers. I mean if they appear and disappear. Then they have to be ghosts. I yell. I'm pissed off. And then, immediately embarrassed as soon as I say my ridiculous theory out loud. I try to speak a bit more calmly. Aren't you worried about someone watching us? I figure it's probably best not to mention they also appear to be dressing like us. Watching. He shrieks in a high-pitched whisper I think it's Gollum he's going for. They're watching me. I push my plate away and stand up. It's not lost on Ronin. Oh, Stevie my lovely. He stammers. I'm so RR. I storm out before he can apologize and try and explain himself. I head for the living room and slam the door behind me. I lean against it, close my eyes, and take a deep breath in. All my disastrous life choices, past and future, appear before me like a slideshow from hell. I breathe out. I open my eyes. The room's still a mess from unpacking. I glance at the window. Then up at the wedding photo up on the mantelpiece. Ronin in his three-piece suit. Me in my white dress. We do look good. Well, we did. On that day. My eyes shift back to the window. I march over to it. Determined. Determined to do what? I don't know. But for a few seconds I feel determined. I yank the curtains open. To look down upon an empty street. No elderly gang. No neighbors. Nobody. The next day I'm sat on the toilet. Knickers round my ankles. Barefoot. Scrolling through Read It. AMA. All the acronym is ed fun it can offer. Suddenly. My phone rings, a rare occurrence these days. I answer it. Hello? Amazon delivery for you. Thanks. Just leave it by the door. A few seconds later I hear a car pull away. I finish my bathroom business. And make my way down to the front door. I open it, there's the box on the ground. But it's clearly been tampered with. I can see the binoculars I ordered last night amongst the pieces of styrofoam. I pick them up and survey them. The lenses, they've been scratched. I can't see a thing out of them. I don't dare look across the street, and instead hurry back indoors. A few hours later, and I'm doing it again. Marching. Determinedly. This time for the first time across the street. The cadence of my stiletto-ed heels clipsy lopping on the ground indicate determination. I've splashed on a bit of makeup on. I ditched the baggy clothes for a white cardigan and floral dress. I'm carrying a cake box. And inside this cake box is nos neon justician. Cake? Carrot cake. Specifically. It's time to meet the neighbors. I'm marching across the street determinedly. But I'm also shitting it just a bit. And I almost completely crap myself when I come to the front yard of the house across the street. It's got the same brilliant red bush sprouting out of it. Just like ours. How is that possible? It hadn't been there when we moved in. At least I hadn't seen it. The street is wide but not that wide. I should have been able to see it. I walk up to the front door. Deep breath. I ring the doorbell. No answer. I knock. I wait. No answer. I go over to the window. Knock. No answer. Curtains are drawn. Back to the front door. Hand on the door handle, it opens. HEL, hello? I call out. As I enter the hallway. It's just across the road. We just moved in. A denim jacket and sports jackets identical to mine and Ronin's are hung up on the wall. I reach out to touch them. They feel the same as ours too. I can hear faint music coming from within the house that tonight I've heard before. I walk into the living room. And the music's louder. It's Tonight You Belong to Me. The layout of the living room is identical to ours. But there are no boxes. It's not far off what we saw when we checked out the model home. But it's now also well decorated and homely. Some flowers from the bush outside are in a vase on the mantelpiece. And above the mantelpiece is our framed wedding photo, except someone has cut out mine and Ronin's faces. I scream. The cake falls from my hands and I run. I seem to take an age to sprint across the street. It seems wider than ever. Or maybe it's because you can really sprint in stiletto S. I don't know. I just need to get inside and away. I'm inside, gasping for breath. I slam the front door behind me, kick off my stupid shoes, and run to the living room. I close the curtains. I run up the stairs. I'm halfway up when I hear the doorbell. I stop. I try to breathe quietly. I creep up. 3L low UD knocks. And I can't help but scream. And now I'm sobbing. I creep back down to the living room. I stand by the window. I'm crying but resigned to my fate. There's a very gentle knock 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 on the window. I slowly open the curtains. Outside, on the front lawn, and half a dozen men and women. Some are wearing my outfits, the dungarees, the floral dress, the cardigan. Some are in Ronin's. All of them are wearing masks cutouts of either mine or Ronin's face for the wedding photo. And then I can hear it again, Tonight You Belong to Me. I turn. Ronin's in the living room. Cake box in one hand. Flowers from the red bush in the other. He's wearing a mask too. The cut out of his own face. Or is he? I can't tell. Hello, my lovely. He says. What's wrong? Over the course of the next few weeks, half a dozen men and women became several dozen, became hundreds. All wearing masks of Ronin. And me. All dressed in dungarees. Plaid shirts. Chinos. T-shirts of bands he never listens to. Roman sandals. That dress I bought in Bali. Hundreds of them. Out in the front yard. Across and then down the street. Just staring at us, well, just me. Because Ronin can't see them. And I'm not sure they can see him. So one day, I let them in. It was getting pretty crowded out there. The day I let them in, they just kind of drifted into the house. Into our for bed. To bathroom. 1490 square foot living accommodation spread over 2 floors. And every day they stand around. Wearing those masks. Dressed in our clothes. Presumably, watching us. In the converted attic. And the spacious garage. While strewn in, and I go about our day. Watching as we eat. Watching as we sleep. Watching as we shit and piss. Watching as we fuck. I tried ignoring them. I yelled at them a few times. Once, I hit one of them. They never respond. Never speak. Never hit back. 10 years later, and they're still with us. There must be millions of them now. Drifting around Ronin on our 2 point for children. They're here right now, as we watch the sun set. As our 2 point for children play in a south-facing garden. With the joy and abandonment that most people can only dream of. I'm writing this from inside an interrogation room. Barricaded behind a desk and a filing cabinet. Hands shaking. With the lights flickering overhead, something wet scratching at the other side of the door. I don't know how much time I have. But someone needs to know what happened. Someone needs to understand what's coming. It started last night. Just after 140 and when I caught the last bus home after my shift at the gas station. Route 13. Practically abandoned. It cuts through a winding stretch of forest before looping out toward the far edge of town where I rent a little house. Most nights, I'm the only passenger. Just me and Marcus. The driver. Marcus was solid. Quiet. Maybe late 50s. Always wore a faded baseball cap. Always had a half-dead cigarette tucked behind his ear. The kind of guy who gave off this unshakable calm. Like he'd seen everything and just didn't care anymore. He didn't scare easy. Until last night. We were maybe 3 stops from mine. Just entering the thickest part of the woods. The trees crowd close, they're thick. Black pines that block out the stars. The air always feels heavier. Like the forest is watching. And the bus stuttered. Just once. The headlights flickered. The dash lights dimmed. And then, with a grinding wheeze, everything died. No power. No engine. No hum of electricity. The heater shut off and the cold hit me like a wave. And then the light came. Not headlights. Not lightning. Something else. A white, sterile brilliance washed over the forest so bright it bled through the seams of the bus. Glowing under the seats. Behind the windows. Through the metal. It wasn't light. It was a reservoir. Like everything outside the bus had been painted over. Marcus stood slowly. I remember the way he looked back at me, one hand on the door lever. Eyes narrowed. Not scared exactly. Just resigned. Stay here, he said. No matter what. The doors opened with a hiss, even though there was no power. Marcus stepped out into the light, casting a long shadow behind him. I climbed into the driver's seat. Heart pounding. That's when I saw it. The ship wasn't above us. It was ahead. Parked right on the road like it had always been there. It was impossible to focus on, curved in ways that made my head hurt. Like a Mobius strip made of bone and steel. The surface writhed subtly, pulsing like it was breathing. War hungry. And then they came. They didn't walk. They glided silent and deliberate. Like something underwater. They were all thin, their skin waxy and pale, their arms bent in too many places. Like dislocated joints moving with a natural precision. Their heads were smooth, eyeless, featureless except for a vertical slit that split open slowly when they got close, revealing a slick red membrane that rippled like it was tasting the air. They approached Marcus and touched him, just a single hand on his forehead. He went stiff. Then they turned, and he followed them like a puppet on strings, walking up into the open ship. No sound. No struggle. Just obedience. Then nothing. The light vanished. The ship was just gone. Like it had never existed. I ran. I don't remember getting off the bus. I remember the cold air biting my lungs, and the sting of tree branches on my face as I sprinted through the forest toward the main road. I flagged down a logging truck. Babbled something about abduction and creatures and Marcus disappearing. The driver called the cops. They met me in minutes. They didn't believe me. Of course. But they were kind about it. Too kind. Like they were handling someone fragile. They brought me to the station. That was their mistake. I told them everything. 6 officers. 1 dispatcher. 2 detectives. All of them sitting in stunned silence as I described the ship. The things that came down. The way Marcus didn't fight. Then the lights flickered. Just once. Then and again. Then everything went dead. And the humming started. Not mechanical. Not even physical. It was in our skulls. A low, nauseating frequency that vibrated behind the eyes. One officer screamed and dropped his radio. Another grabbed his head and staggered back against the wall. Eyes rolled up into white. And the windows shattered. The front glass imploded. And a gust of cold air filled the room, reeking of burned plastic and decay. Something stepped through, spilled through like it was peeling itself into our reality. It was one of them. But then there were many. Chaos erupted. One officer fired his sidearm. The bullets froze mid-air, hung there for a second, and then reversed direction into rain to him. Another was lifted by his throat and peeled open from the jaw like paper. There was no blood at first, just smoke. Like something inside him had boiled before his skin caught up. One creature slid through the ceiling tiles and dropped onto an officer's back. It wrapped long fingers around his head and sank through his skull like it was dipping into clay. The screams never stopped. They didn't even sound human after a while. I watched the sergeant try to fight one off with a baton. It didn't even flinch. It let him hit it, then folded itself inside out and swallowed him whole. His body didn't fall. It just melted into the thing like it was never there. I ran. I don't even remember getting into the interrogation room. I just remember slamming the door and jamming the filing cabinet in front of it. My hands were covered in someone else's blood. Now I'm here, listening. The hall is quiet, except for the occasional click, like bone tapping on tile. or teeth chattering in reverse. And the scratching started, soft at first, curious, then faster, more aggressive, long, sharp movements, something dragging claws across the wood and glass, something eager. I didn't dare look through the window, but I should have known they'd want me to, because that's when I saw it, standing outside, in the parking lot, perfectly still. One of them, tall, pale, skin like curdled milk, long arms dangling at its sides like puppet strings, and its head was Marcus's face. Not a mask, not a copy. His actual face stitched onto its head like wet leather, stretched to thin over something not meant to wear it. His eyes were glassy, lips pulled into a slight, pleasant smile, and then it spoke. In Marcus's voice, "Come on now. It's all right. Let us in. You're the last one." His voice was calm, kind, familiar, but there was something under it, a subtle delay, like someone practicing speech by playing it through a broken speaker. Like it didn't know what it was saying, just that it had to say it. The scratching's getting louder now. Faster. The door's vibrating like something's clawing at the lock from the inside. They don't want to kill me. They want me to open the door. They want permission. They want compliance. I can hear more of them out there now, clicking, hissing, mimicking footsteps and whispered voices. One of them is giggling. And my voice. I'm not going to make it out of this room, but I needed someone to know what happened here. This isn't science fiction. It's not invasion. It's replacement. And if this is just the beginning, I don't think we're the dominant species anymore.